Hello everyone, welcome back to Upside Down Data. Today I want to talk about EGLD and what our risk indicator makes of its recent price action. If you like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and follow us on Twitter, where we put out regular updates about our risk indicators and more. So if you've seen some of our other videos on the UDPI or our UDPI for EGLD, you're probably familiar with what you're seeing here. But in brief, I'm showing you the price history of EGLD across time, color-coded to the output of our risk indicator. So 5 is high risk, -5 is low risk. And you can see the model has tracked the risk of EGLD pretty well over time. Now, talking about where we are recently, right? We had this explosive move by EGLD out of the summer. In fact, I would argue that people kind of have slept on how well EGLD did coming out of the summer. You know, EGLD was almost 1,000% up from the very bottom of the summer to the very top here, which puts it, you know, in rivalry with some of those other assets like Solana or AVAX that a lot of people point to as being kind of some of the bigger winners out of the summer. In some ways, you know, EGLD also did quite well for itself during this time period. But now we're in a correction, or we had been in a pretty sizable correction for EGLD that since we've hit this kind of reversal point. And one thing that I think is heartening with all this, so certainly it was painful to watch EGLD fall from well over $500 down to its current levels, you know, to have it break down almost to $100, you know, it bottomed out a little bit above that here. But what's been nice is to see this recovery along with the rest of the market and to see it happen at such a low risk reading. So to look at that more closely, what I'm showing you here is just the risk output or the risk level on the y-axis and then the output across time here. And we can see is this pretty precipitous drop that we had in this correction off of that all-time high. And now it looks like we might be starting to put in a bottom on risk. And it's interesting to note that this bottoming out point is very close to where we actually bottomed out back in the summer, right? Right around -3, a little bit below. We caught a bottom in the summer, and now we've caught a bottom here, potentially, right? So far, the indications, it looks like we might be catching a bottom. And when these reversals occur, that can sometimes be at around the point when a reversal in price action can form. Now, the caveat with all of this, of course, is that we need to just watch what the rest of the crypto market does. If broader bullish sentiment remains, then I think EGLD is very well set up for a rally to the upside. But of course, if Bitcoin capitulates or there's some macro event that throws the crypto markets into panic, all bets are off at that point. But assuming that we kind of see the general sentiment in the market start to shift, this is a great launching point, in my opinion, for a rally. So it would be totally plausible for me to see a nice rally off of here for EGLD. And frankly, a lot of the crypto market seems poised for a rally. So I would see it as being surprising if EGLD didn't rally along with the rest of the market. But of course, that's going to be dependent on that broader bullish sentiment. So we'll have to wait and see with that. So we can look at the other time frames of the UDPI. I was showing you the long term, which cares about more macro risk, so risk that plays out over months to years, so kind of broad macro market cycle type of price action that it cares about and follows. We also have a medium term that cares about price action over weeks to months, so a bit shorter in its time preference, and a short term that cares about moves that play out over days to weeks, so much shorter time preference there. And what we can see is that we've gotten bounces on all of them just at slightly different levels, right? But basically the same, kind of around -3 has been where the long term, the medium term, and the short term UDPI have all seemed to, so far, have caught bottoms. So it'll be interesting to watch, right? So as EGLD has started to go up in price, it's starting to realize some of that short-term upside potential, but the model thinks there's still plenty of room left ahead, that if EGLD wants to continue rallying, it has room to do so in the short term. And then certainly in the mid and long term, there's plenty of upside that's realistic from the model's perspective. So really the way I kind of read this data is I see EGLD being poised, being kind of coiled up and ready to go. And if broader market conditions allow it, I think it will go. But if broader market conditions turn bearish again, then I don't expect EGLD to be able to rally on its own, right? I would find it surprising for EGLD to go rallying while the rest of the market is dumping. So in some ways, its fate is not entirely its own. But certainly if energy re-enters the crypto markets, EGLD is sitting in a pretty good spot in my opinion. And we can just see it in its price action, right? Every time we've been in these green zones, it's generally preceded these nice moves to the upside. Now, one thing I do want to mention is since we're starting at a higher price, then it's also the case that we might not be able to expect quite as high of multiples in a rally to the upside as we have back in the summer, right? Elrond had a significantly smaller market cap back here than it does at its current prices. And generally speaking, with crypto assets, the larger the market cap, the less multiples it's able to put in a given rally. It just takes too much money. There's more and more money is required to move a larger and larger market cap asset up in price. And so usually the larger the market cap, the asset, the less multiples it can put in a given rally. Now, not to say that Elrond can't put it in an impressive rally. I personally just won't expect it to do another 1,000% rally out of here, right? Just because, its starting point now is so much higher than it was just even back in the summer. And then likewise, its starting point back before this big run here was even lower. And so that's why I was able to appreciate so much more in its price versus later on. Just the kind of the law of market caps in some degree, where the larger the market cap, usually the less multiples the asset can put in. So I think it's important just to be realistic in what we can expect. So this is not to say that Elrond can't rally nicely. It's just that I think diminishing returns are likely to rear their head. That just more likely than not, its top would be at a lower multiple up from its starting point than the last rally. But who knows? Absolutely could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. So another thing I did just want to look at, which I think is just interesting metric to look at sometimes, is comparing the long-term UDPI for EGLD to the long-term UDPI for Ethereum. So the white grayish line, this is the EGLD UDPI over time, and then the green line is the ETH UDPI level over that same time period. And one thing I think is really interesting to note when you look at this is that oftentimes there's either a high level of correlation between EGLD and Ethereum in terms of when they're realizing their upside potential, or these occasional times where in fact EGLD's able to realize more of its upside potential than Ethereum. That happened back here in the middle of 2020, in around summer of 2020. And I think that's interesting to know because certainly one of the things that people talk about a lot with any kind of layer one other than Ethereum is, okay, is it going to outperform Ethereum, right? Because really the argument being that Ethereum being a larger cap asset, it might have lower downside risk than a lot of alternative layer one, smaller market cap assets. So people would say, well, if it's not going to outperform ETH, then why wouldn't you just buy ETH, right? It's got larger market cap, should shield you more from downside risk, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is heartening to me to see EGLD be able to put up these kind of performance relative to Ethereum, because it's showing that whenever Ethereum is really pumping, EGLD's pumping right along with it and realizing quite a bit of upside potential. And in fact, occasionally can actually realize more of its upside potential in the moment than Ethereum can. Now, that's no guarantee that that has to continue into the future, but certainly if it does, I think that would be a point in favor of EGLD relative to some other assets that haven't been able to keep up with Ethereum in the past. Now, again, obviously we're having to project on the future from past performance, but if this were to continue, I'd see that as a point in EGLD's column. I would be concerned if this starts breaking down, right? I'd be concerned if Ethereum's able to start putting in big work to the upside, realize a lot of its upside potential, and EGLD's not able to follow suit. That would be concerning. But so far, it hasn't shown much of an inclination to do that yet, so we'll have to just watch that into the future. But again, certainly a hopeful sign from the past. So to wrap up the discussion today, I just want to talk about the current UDPI levels for EGLD. So looking across the time periods here, we're at the long term is still below -3, so quite low risk. And again, this has set the stage for nice rallies in the past. No guarantee it has to happen, but it's certainly primed should it get the opportunity, in my opinion. Medium UDPI is also pretty low, -2.28. And short-term UDPI is -1.76. So this is all indicative of what we've been seeing, right? Where the long-term UDPI thinks there's quite a bit of realistic upside potential in the coming months. As EGLD has started to move up in price, I think it's up around 50% from the absolute bottom of this most recent correction. It has moved the needle on the medium term a bit, so it started to eat up some of that medium-term upside potential. And then we really see that upside realization showing up in the short term, right? That in kind of the shorter term period, it's starting to chew up some of the upside potential, but still plenty of room left should it decide to rally. So again, my kind of general perspective here, or my reading of this data, is that EGLD seems coiled and ready, and it's really just going to depend what the rest of the market does. If the rest of the market gets bullish, see no reason why EGLD couldn't pump as well and do quite nicely. It's actually offering a pretty low risk level even relative to some other crypto assets. But if things turn bearish again, all bets are off. So not financial advice, make your own decisions, but that's my interpretation of this data. All right, if you like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and follow us on Twitter. And remember, with UDPI, we're all going to make it.